thank you all for being here today for this pre-panel discussion for the viewing of the 2020 vice presidential debate that's going to happen at 8 o'clock. So this is the pre-discussion, and after that debate, we're going to come back for our post-analysis of the debate tonight. So for all of those that are watching, that's basically the format of tonight. Myself, my name is Brittae Gray Ross. I am the Director of Educational Activities for the Epsilon Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I'm sorry. And I have my distinguished panelists here with me today. We have Dr. Shawn Baker. He is Dean of Student Success at Harris Stowe State University. We have DeMarco Davidson here representing Metropolitan Congregations United. We have Leon O'Hara, community organizer and president of Paradigm Builders. And I'm assuming she will join us shortly, Ms. Kim Gardner. She's the St. Louis City Circuit Attorney. Brothers, we are all Black, so we will be having a very Black discussion today, talking about things that concern Black people. Just as a opening question, what kind of Black agenda do you feel will be discussed in tonight's debate?
I don't think they're going to really touch on that. Because well, let's just talk about it, and it's something we should be talking about. They really did not address it too much in the presidential debate. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's some things that we should talk about in our own community. It's like, what's the list of demands, or what have we talked to or told the Black Caucus what we want as a people? And sometimes we wait until they're elected to start giving them these lists and stuff. This stuff should be out front right now. We should know, all of us should know what the different things that we're demanding or we would like to see that will move us forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent question, Brittae. And first and foremost, definitely, again, thank you for the opportunity. And don't forget about the nukes too, man. Don't forget about the nukes. Nukes vote also. We vote. But back to the question: what type of Black agenda do I think might be discussed tonight? If it is discussed, it will be. I think it's most likely will be discussed more on a national level, not on a state by state level. One of the things that I let people know is that, like for example, the state of Missouri is 12% Black, but the voting population is probably somewhere between 5-6%. Mm-hmm. So, we can demand, we can ask for a Black agenda, but the state of Missouri voting population of Black people, we're like a pinky finger, so, but we end up having conversations on a broad conversation about the Black agenda, which is still low, it's still minimum. So, I'm assuming they're going to say, hey, everybody got to get out and vote. That's what they normally say. That's what we normally hear. They rarely ever give us real reasons for us to get out and vote. Besides, these people resemble slave masters, and we don't. So, and sometimes that is enough for some, but many people are starting to realize that it's not, especially after we've had our first Black actual African-American president, so I wanted to make sure I stopped and open up the venue to let Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner be able to say hello.
Yeah. I'm glad you can join us, Ms. Gardner. We introduced you earlier, so I'm so happy to have you on the call with us.
Yeah, sorry for my tech issues with this new reality. So thanks for having me.
It's quite all right. You know, I was telling the brothers before you got it on, it's always good to have an AKA on the panel. So
Well, actually, I'm me five me. I'm not an AKA, so I'm not in any sorority.
oh man,
All right. I didn't think she was part of the sorority, but I wasn't gonna say nothing. I wasn't gonna say nothing.
Right. That was
oh,
news to me.
So me five
must
me is a
Thirsty
sorority.
here.
I'm in that sorority of
I
got
must
a lot of people.
I must got some bad intel, so I'm glad you
My
cleared
mom's an
that up.
AKA, so that's what it was. My mom's an AKA.
Okay.
Gotcha,
Right.
gotcha.
How much are those dues for me, 5 me?
But anyway, to continue on our question, Leon, you can go ahead and what kind of Black agenda do you feel will be discussed in tonight's debate?
Well, so the Trump administration has touted the platinum plan for the Black community, which the name itself sounds kind of patronizing, but notwithstanding the name of the plan, are the Democrats going to introduce a rhodium plan for the Black community? Because the Black community is the absolute neediest community in the United States, and not because we want to be needy. It's because we were made to be needy. We were planned to be needy, okay, to always be dependent. But if we really want to take this country to the next level, we've got to cure the most deprived community in America, and that's the Black community. So, I'm not a partisan person. I've never voted full Democrat, full Republican ever. I vote issues, okay? And while I'm going to say some unpopular stuff right now, while I voted twice for Barack Obama, and I actually shed a tear when he was elected. I was down in Jackson, Mississippi, and I was at the huge convention center with thousands of other Black folks who were all just, we felt so good. But all we got out of having the first Black president of the United States, as far as the Black community is concerned, is it made us feel great. We felt really good. And so what I don't want to see happen to us again, because if it happens again, we're not gonna recover. All right. Black community is on its way out. The Latino community is going to replace us as the new minority, and they're going to have the political power that we currently possess with the Democratic Party if we're not careful. So I'm sorry if that didn't completely answer your question. Do I think they're going to bring it up tonight on the debate? Yes, I definitely do. If nothing else, the Republicans want to, show off their platinum plan again. Whether or not the Democrats have a good rebuttal is the question.
Yeah. The question was actually what kind of Black agenda, but I think you were pretty clear in your statements.
Yeah.
But Ms. Gardner, if you want to take a stab at the question.
I think that's a trick question for me. I don't think Trump has a Black agenda. I think he has a pandering, fear, and divisive rhetoric, and actually racial rhetoric that he's continued to say the last time, stand by and stand back, or however he put it. So when we talk about this agenda, I think that what we have to look at is the inequities of Black and brown people in all communities that he perpetuates off of fear, perpetuates off of the inequities that we know existed over 200 years and continue to exist regardless of who the president is. And I think that when we talk about the first African-American president, what we also put on that president prior are all these inequities that we have allowed, regardless of the party, to exist. And now I think is the time that everyone in America is saying enough is enough. And the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted these inequities that have already existed in the Black and brown community and poor communities. And now we're saying, what is the agenda to actually heal the community of trauma that has existed? How we address this new phenomenon of this pandemic that President Trump and his groups of individuals and his actual cabinet have failed to address. And so he uses fear. He uses this fear of crime that has existed in urban cities around the country because of systematic disinvestment that has taken place for over 100 plus years. And so what we're asking, I think now with the protests and many diverse people who are looking at police accountability, and a lot of the things that they're asking for is to address the inequities in communities, we have to actually understand that what people are asking around this country, how are we going to move forward together? And that's the only way we can truly be great. But we have to have tough conversations and have to now, with the George Floyds, with the Breonna Taylors, with the Philando Castillos, with the Mike Brown conversations that's taking place, is a bigger context of just social justice. Is actually the inequities of all systems and the systemic racism that we know existed. And we failed to have an actual strategic plan to address those inequities. And these systems merge into the criminal justice system. And that's why the platform of a reform-minded prosecutor as Senator Harris is so crucial, because a lot of these conversations of the inequities that we see, not only in the economy, not only in crime, not only in the disparities in health, that all converges on the criminal justice system. And so I think that we have to have a president that wants to bring us together, not divide us. We have a president that speaks to a small few of individuals, but we also have a president that strokes the fear of the divide and the racism that has existed for decades. And we have to understand he has his agenda is to divide. And so we have to get past the rhetoric and put someone in office that's about fairness and equity for all.
Hey, Brittae.
I think I think that was a really good segue into the next question, because there has been some criticism of Senator Harris's past record as a prosecutor. And so I wanted to ask the panel, what type of criminal justice reform do you think the Biden administration will champion?
I mean,
well, I'll go first if you want me to go first as a prosecutor, just to set the tone. I mean, a lot of times people want to, excuse me, if you want to go first, is Dr. Baker, you want us to take that first stab?
you got it.
You are the secret attorney. I think you definitely should go first. You should be listening.
No, I mean, I think that we have to look at, that's a big issue now, how we have perpetuated mass incarceration for decades, for centuries. And so we have to, a lot of people look at Senator Harris's record when she was a prosecutor, actually one of the rare African-American prosecutors ever. And a lot of people don't understand, you're comparing apples to oranges when you look at a reform-minded prosecutor like myself or other reform-minded African-American female prosecutors that you see now post Mike Brown. 5 years ago, this did not exist. And when in her generation of when she was doing the work as the DA in San Francisco, she was considered a reform-minded prosecutor when she was looking at addressing the root causes of what drives individuals to the criminal justice system, looking at data to how to identify as prosecutors what they need to change, what they need to work on in terms of holding people accountable, but at the same time, saving people from going further down the crime continuum. So she was the first to actually start the conversation that this tough on crime, one size rhetoric does not fit. And there's ways that prosecutors can actually, in terms of public safety, address these issues with their office and how they use prosecutorial discretion. And so I think that she is a reform-minded prosecutor in her time, but you can't compare her to what you see now because that did not exist 5 years ago. And that's some of the misinformation that's unfortunately put upon her on her record, because a prosecutor has to make tough decisions. And, at that time period, when she was that prosecutor, she was considered actual reform-minded and started that conversation that led to us.
Yeah, I think the a lot of the criticism, that people do have of her is that when she was prosecutor, she's a Black woman representing Black women, but her record as a prosecutor shows a lot of the truancy laws that affected Black women and specifically single Black women. And just looking forward, because the past is a great, revealing thing when it comes to, what the future is going to look like. We're just trying to figure out what do you to the panel, or specifically you, Ms. Gardner, what do you think, what kind of reform is going to come out of a Biden administration?
Well, I think, like you said, when you know better, you do better. And I think that what they know right now is they know mass incarceration did not work. It's made our cities across America unsafe. So I believe that understanding what the people are calling for right now, police accountability. I believe that Senator Harris, as well as former Vice President Biden, will promote police accountability. I believe that they will look at how we have the inequities of addiction and further expand alternatives that prosecutors on the local level have done. I think they will fund victim service outreach that is crucial for us addressing violent crime in the local jurisdictions, because I think that this conversation of criminal justice reform actually takes place on the local level, not always on the federal level. It's the start, but and that really highlights how important your local elected prosecutor is. And that's why there's many examples in Missouri that you have this circuit attorney, which was targeted by the governor, the attorney general, to take away that prosecutorial discretion, because the impediments of criminal justice reform is really locally. And that's what is under attack. It's not just this blanket federal laws that help us do our job is in the local jurisdiction. So I think that what they will do is learn from the past. And I think that they will push for examples of accountability for police, which is crucial. I believe they will push for a standardized reporting of those bad police officers, so everyone would know how to identify those individuals nationally. And I believe that they would push the agenda of the people.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on it as well, Brittae, and also, piggyback off of what Circuit Attorney Gardner shared, and also not necessarily rebuttal what Leon shared, but just to bring in some aspect of the discussion, especially when it comes to reform, right? When I worked on the Obama campaign, I was the field organizer for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 19th, and 21st wards in St. Louis City in 2008. So I too, like Leon, shed a tear when he won out of my left eye, but I also shed a tear on my right eye because he lost Missouri, or should I say Missouri, right? And we saw there was like, wait, there's differences, right? And one thing I sometimes, let's be real, let's be honest, Obama to a certain degree, for some, was a pacifier, as in, oh, we got somebody in, we good, now let's kick our feet up, let's take our feet off the gas. Wow. And if you watch any documentary, whether it's Rigged or the most recent one, that Stacey Abrams All In, you see immediately how certain political individuals, so, Democrats, Republicans, whatever, certain individuals decided to say, oh, we're going to make sure this president isn't able to do anything from 2009, 2010 and on. So, and that's one of the challenges, of course, also being the first. And when we also look at what were people doing beforehand, to bring back to specifically Sister Harris's record, I always recommend people to read the book or listen to it via audio. The book Locking Up Our Own, which actually explains how, yes, we did have African Americans in high places, in judges or circuit attorneys. At the same time, they still were going according to what was considered successful. And when I look at what people again, there was no reform circuit attorneys happening when she was in office. What I do believe now is that people actually have learned, and we are at a place now where we are redefining what success is. Success is not locking up as many people as possible or charging many people as possible. Locking up is making sure that families are still remaining whole, and what wraparound services need to be brought to the table. I do believe that, again, I'm independent like Leon. I don't think I've ever voted just straight up and down one party. And when we think about what is being done and the mass amount of information and how quickly people can learn these things, I'm gonna bring it up now. I personally don't like the term defund the police. I don't like it, But at the same time, I challenge anybody to look at how people have been defunding education. We literally just had our governor in the midst of COVID say, I'm going to take $133 million away from the public school budgets this year during COVID. So when I think of, and what I'm hoping for, what I'm wishing for, what I will hold them accountable if they win the election is to make sure that they are applying different measures of success to when it comes to making sure that we are being equitable and not just going along with the system that already has been designed for us. I always let people know as an engineer, the word system is an acronym, SYSTEM, and it stands for save yourself some time, energy, and money. We have to start recognizing that somebody saved time, energy, and money with creating the current criminal justice system, the education system. These systems are not working for Black people, are not working for the majority of America. And I think that's one of the great things that, and hopefully that the Democrats can capitalize on if they want to win.
Yeah, DeMarco, I got a follow-up question for you, but I want to let Dr. Baker go in and give a statement.
Yeah, and I like what they both said, but you got to realize when these systems were put in place, we didn't have a seat at the table as we do now, and we got to be more vocal while we have our voices being heard. And now that we have people that are willing to back us up, it's obvious when we go out here and see these protests, it's more of them out there than it is us. And that's very important. And some of the things that Kim talked about, we need to look at in our own backyard is sometimes we don't want to talk about it. I'm not against unions and stuff, but the unions hold all the power, but nobody ever wants to talk about it. It's like a hush hush thing. But we got to start. We got to start sitting down and having some type of conversation with these unions and these policies that they have that allow for some of this mess to take place. It's just like, and another thing for the federal level, yes, the federal level does help sometimes, but just like in the state of Missouri, they just passed something where now the cops will have a background check. But why isn't that national? There's some stuff we need to look at with that and accountability at that level too. It's very, very important. But like you said, you don't fix the system overnight. It takes time, but you got to start putting people in those seats though to fix that system.
Can I say something real quick before we move on? Just to follow what Dr. Baker and Mr. DeMarco said. I mean, it's when we talk about these systems, the criminal justice system, what people forget, this system was made to do what it's doing right now, nothing different. And when you have these systems that are doing what it was supposed to do, then when you have people like myself in these positions, then you see the impediments to actually using your prosecutorial discretion. Then all of a sudden you have laws aimed at you to say you cannot use that discretion. Like everyone had this position since 1865 in this office, or 1861 as circuit attorney. When I was a state legislator, the people who talk about violent crime in our cities, like you said, defund the police. Let's say this: Missouri is defunding guns, regulations, defunding education. They defund health access, defund social service programs, and they actually defund the actual one HBCU that I'm an alumni from, Harris-Stowe State University. It was a college when I went through there. Defund the only open university purposely that when I was a state legislator, do you know what they told me? They told me that we want to close Harris-Stowe down because we don't like that they're an open university and they give everybody an opportunity regardless of your background. That's a problem. When you have purpose policies in place that cause the very thing that we're talking about, that it doesn't matter who at the federal level, when you have these actual different legislators, whether you are Republican or Democrat, that actually have no long-term plan for addressing all these inequities that I know poverty is the number one issue of someone showing up in the criminal justice system. And we don't care. We say, oh, guess what? Long sentences is the only solution. And then, by the way, my duty as a prosecutor is minister of justice, to pursue justice, not merely convictions. But every time you hear on the media, they're always talking about how many people I didn't convict, which that's not my duty. It's to pursue justice, and justice have no time limit. So when you have these individuals in positions that when you get here, they use the law to weaponize the law against you from doing your job, like you guys are talking on the federal and the local level, that's when we have to be strategic of having not just people representing us in these positions, but actually the actual infrastructure to actually attack these systems that I believe in the Biden administration and the Harris administration will support. because it's this intervention of feds now that's to weaponize attacks of, we're going to take over your cities and help militarize response to certain situations. We know there's protests, and we see in Chicago, we see in Seattle what's being taken place. Now it's, oh, we need to help you with our crime. Well, the number one reason for crime in the city of St. Louis, why we can't solve murders in the city of St. Louis, is lack of trust with the system and witness and victim participation. None of this intervention addressed those two issues. So why are we doing this?
So, I actually have another question for you, Ms. Gardner, and I kind of want to give, well, I'll make a statement and then I'll ask my question. So, you filed a lawsuit against the city of St. Louis where you cited violations of the Constitution and the KKK Act. And for all of those who are watching, who may not understand what the KKK Act was, which is a nickname for the Enforcement Act of 1871, which is suspended habeas corpus, and which is your right for a trial. So anybody that they found that was a member of the KKK, they just locked them up and put them in jail. So just a little context. So in that lawsuit, you cited those two things. Why is it that you cited those two things in your lawsuit?
One of the things, that act was really the coordinated effort of the organization, which was the KKK, to stop the civil rights action in the local levels. And that was used to actually stop those impediments of the Civil Rights Act and people's equal access to the laws. And that's where we're saying in this act is there's a coordinated effort from a powerful few, and we name those by the St. Louis Police Officers Association. We name certain individuals that were actually connected to the St. Louis Police Officers Association, as well as individuals involved in the special prosecution, which that, by the way, I can say a little bit more, but I'm trying to be measured because we will look into evaluate this case, which was a coordinated few to actually prosecute or investigate actions that have never been actually investigated ever before. And so this coordinated few was really about the people elected me in 2017 to enact criminal justice reform in our jurisdiction. And that has been an impediment to that actually implementing criminal justice reform by the powerful few, by this coordinated group of individuals that, if I go through many examples, it's always, it's like, what is it, Kevin Bacon, 3 degrees separation of Kevin Bacon? Well, I have a coordinated individuals that was 3 degrees separation of every lawsuit I have, actual action of stopping other legal action I have that's related to these coordinated few of individuals. And so that's why it was important, because it's not about me. It was about the will of the people. The people deserve equal access under the laws in the state of Missouri to have reform implemented. And it's really about the will of the people's voice. And I represent the people. So this is the action that was not brought because of Kim Gardner. This was Kim Gardner representing the people of the city of St. Louis who elected me for reform in 2017. And we're gonna keep fighting for that reform. And we've done a lot of good work. So this is, we have not backed down. Of course, you heard last week or 2 weeks ago that the lawsuit was dismissed by the court, but my legal counsel, we're looking to actually how we go forward on this action, because this is not determining the merits of the case. So this is the coordinated effort of the powerful few that control reform. And
Yeah, so
it's that coordinated effort.
yeah, so just so I can have a little clarity, because I'm not too familiar with legal jargon, but the way that I guess it can be interpreted is that, citing this KKK Act, and what it did, at least from a historical standpoint, affected people who were considered white supremacists. And today, white supremacist is, you know, a dirty word. And, you know, we see white supremacist groups, people like the Proud Boys and others who consider themselves white supremacists. We've also had people who are considered white supremacists in law enforcement in St. Louis Police Department who wear badges. So citing this particular act, it 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 gives the impression that, you know, an act like this is from a federal level will bear some punishment on people who are affiliated with white supremacist organizations. Now, is is that true? Is that the gist of it? Am I getting it right?
Well,
Or
I mean, I mean, that's the foundation of the coordinated conspiracy of affecting the will of the people, and that is the history context that you're talking about. With the right, it was aimed at the white supremacist group, and this is used to violate civil rights of groups of people who are minorities, like myself, or female. So the gender, racial component to that. So that is true. So you are giving the historical. But it also could be used to the coordinated view um, of the will of the people who voted for this African American circuit attorney, and the powerful few have stopped the will of the people through different mechanisms, and it's a coordinated effort of this few. So it is used in the same context, just not directed to white supremacy groups. So it's just now it's the coordinated effort of individuals that are affiliated with the St. Louis Police Officers Association that they have a history of being the most aggressive, egregious police union by the Washington Post in the country, and actually the most racially divided and divisive group that's led by Jeff Rorter. And we all know who he is because he makes national news to say Happy Alive Day. It's actually a coordinated effort through intimidation tactics to put out the police union actually through the police union by Jeff Rorter have racist intent to impede the will of the people by stopping reform at all costs. And by the way, there's a lot of, if you look at the fights that have been displayed, there has a racial undertone. You know, there's well, she's holding people accountable by putting them on the exclusion list. Well, if you're not credible and you have the ability to take someone's life and liberty, why would I allow you to do things normal? That's not justice.
I mean, just considering the times. I mean, we have you know, Black Lives Matter everywhere in response to police brutality that's happening all over the country. You know,
But no, but look, the Plainview Project. Look at the Plainview we had here. We had 22 officers that actually were still currently working. If you look at those, the Plainview Project, you can go on there. You can see the racial animus and sentiments. Actually, one of the things they put on, not Plainview, but put on my office, they had a 1960 canine car with the dogs barking, and they said, Hypocrisy Palooza, and they called all of the police, retired police officers as well as current police officers to protest in my office, which they did during regular court hours. They actually had the blue Punisher symbol, which that's led to the Plainview a directive to put the blue Punisher symbol on it, wear that on their clothing. Those things are issues for bias, and I'm not saying that every police officer is a bad police officer in the St. Louis Police Department, but when you have a duty, I cannot, in my job, put things out to the public that would give the appearance that I'm biased to certain groups, because it's equal justice under laws for everybody. And you have to understand, with that position of taking someone's life and liberty, you have to be careful what you post on your Facebook. It's beyond what some people say free speech. That's some issue that some people are up to discussion that say that racial animus is free speech.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, a question that I would have to the panel, because, you know, what's happening, you know, with police brutality around the country is very real, you know, and it's something that specifically happened that's affecting the Black community specifically. You know, we keep seeing Black brothers and Black sisters, you know, being beat and murdered, by these police officers. And some, like I mentioned before, are affiliated with white supremacist organizations. My question to the panel is, do you feel like there should be federal intervention when it comes in our cities, when it comes to dealing with police brutality in our cities?
Can I talk on this, Brittae?
Yep.
Okay, great. So do I think there should be federal intervention as it relates to police brutality? Yeah, if the state or the local governments aren't doing what they need to be doing to combat police brutality, then yeah, by all means, there should be federal prosecutors involved, particularly in any of these cases where it looks like there was an unarmed Black person, or whatever other minority groups that might have a claim to it. But when there's an unarmed person involved who ends up getting killed or beaten to smithereens for no reason other than the color of their skin, and local government is either unwilling or unable to address it, then yes, the federal government needs to step in. But I want to take it a step further, Brother Brittae, and I know you're going to come back to this eventually, but combating these issues of police brutality and police killings or whatever of Black folks, the root cause of all this, okay, we're targeted because we are weak. We are weak because we have no money. We have no money because this country was designed to keep us.
I want to put that on hold just a
okay.
second.
All right, because you already know.
We're going to get into economics. We're definitely going to get into economics, but I just want to make sure that I have a good understanding from the panel when it comes to federal legislation, because we're going into this debate that's going to happen at 8 o'clock. We're going to be listening for these things, and these are some of the issues that are concerning the Black community, and we are looking for, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, if you're going to support these efforts. So and the only reason that I mentioned the KKK Act is because that was some legislation that was passed that actually was very, very effective. It actually crippled the organization. And I think that sometimes, I don't want to give too much of my opinion, but just considering the times when we have such boldness, from Charlottesville to, all of the recent things that's been happening in the name of white supremacy. I just want to get the panel's perspective about, federal intervention when it comes to dealing with
Can I say
and
something?
resolving police brutality.
Can I say something on that?
Yeah.
I believe.
I mean,
I know I've been talking a lot, but I want to try to give everybody else an example. Lawyers love to talk, so I'm trying to be mindful. And I'm elected official. But what I say is, I believe it should be both. I don't think it's either or. What I believe is that there's time where there's pattern and practice federal investigations that need to be addressed on the federal level, but there's also a state statute, local statute that the local prosecutor needs to evaluate for criminal charges. And I think it should be done together as a way to look at these individual circumstances that, one, depending on those local laws as well as that federal intervention, how they coordinate and actually what is the best outcome for that situation. But what we're failing to address, we have the Sessions, now William Barr DOJ. And under the Trump Sessions Barr DOJ, a lot of these pattern and practice, a lot of these consent decrees have actually, investigations have stopped because it's at the directive of the president, at the directive of the U.S. attorney. And so these pattern and practice federal investigations are led by who's in the cabinet. And that's where that who on the federal level is also important. But I think that even with that federal intervention we saw with Ferguson, there's that coordination of how we, and I believe this model that I got off from this, it was a former police officer who said that we should have an organization of local as well as federal investigative agency that's like the NTSB. When a plane crash, they come there and they go through and evaluate the situation. And then from there, they best practice of one, preventing this from happening again, but they triage to what appropriate steps of whatever that investigation is. And so that's why I always say who controls that investigation locally as well as federally is important. And we need to have an independent organization made up of federal and local individuals by that local prosecutor to actually look at these cases in a way that's appropriate.
I'm gonna let Dr. Baker get in here real quick, but I wanted to say this, and I'm gonna go on to Dr. Baker. That what's been happening as of recently have been fairly brazen. You know, it's not too much investigation needs to happen as far as what we've seen with our own eyes. You know, there shouldn't be any special research or special prosecutor. They're fairly brazen. We see it live on our TV or whether it's on our social media. So that now is where we talk about real accountability. And I want to get Dr. Baker's perspective on it.
I want to comment after Dr. Baker as well.
I like to say, what have you done for me lately? Sometimes, just to be honest, we've had the federal agencies at the federal level come down and look at some of these cases. And the federal level, they can get involved with all these cases if they really want to, from Arbery, Mike Brown. You can just keep naming them. But what have you done for me lately? And you got to realize it's also going to change every 4 years when who's in office. That's something we got to do. But I think it should be done locally. Also with the help, if we need help, wherever you are in the United States from the federal level. But like she said, independent oversight committee or whatever it needs to be too, just to make sure that it ties it all back in. But also you got to look at, if you put all those involved, is it going to slow it down? Is it going to be a backlog into a lot of this stuff? Because we see it a whole lot more going on in different communities across the United States because of social media. But this has been going on forever. So it's a lot of things that are involved that we got to look at with the whole picture.
So with that being said, Dr. Baker, what do you feel like should be a demand from these presidential candidates when it comes to, you know, Black people and our issue with police brutality?
Like the first thing is reform. We have to have the reform.
So what does reform look like?
Oh man, it's so much.
Because let me give a little bit more to that before you answer. So, like I said, what we've seen as of recently, right, are very brazen acts with George Floyd. I mean, just right on his neck. I mean, we literally watched him kill him, and there's still discussion on whether this guy should go to jail. I don't, or if he will be accountable whatsoever, you know, and those type of things continue to happen. So we know if you wouldn't just lock up your officers who do that to our George Floyds, to our Breonna Taylors, to our, you go down the list, we wouldn't even have this conversation. So what is it about some of the prosecutors in these cities, some of the judges, and some of the people that needs to change in order for us to see the change that we need? So
real fast, man, like, you know, I know you are sharing that some things seem to be, you know, brazen or even somewhat new. None of this is new. Like, none of it, unfortunately, is just recorded, and we have more access to it now. So I conversed with people, and when they heard about George Floyd, they're like, "Oh, I can't watch the tape. I don't want to watch it, but I feel like I need to watch it." And I said, "You ain't got to watch that. Just watch Do the Right Thing from 1989. Literally the same thing happened." I guess,
DeMarco, what is different is that what is different is that, you know, we all knew that, and by we I mean Black people, we understand how we are treated, you know, by law enforcement. But it's another thing, and knowing nothing is going to happen, but it's another thing to know that nothing's going to happen and the whole world is watching this. So like I said, what do you think we should be demanding from this from this either administration.
Can I
Right.
say
So,
something? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, but I'll say real quick, because it ties right into what Circuit Attorney Gardner has been sharing. And definitely, I want to finish with Leon had to share, because it does come to local control. Somebody asked a question in the chat, how do we hold elected officials accountable? We make sure that they understand their power, and we represent and support them in their power. Circuit Attorney Gardner and County Prosecutor Wesley Bell have been catching hell for doing the same things that some of their predecessors were doing as well, right? And they catching all type of drama because who they are locally. The fact that literally today, the couple out in Central West End who was waving guns with their finger on the trigger got a charge or got indicted. Sorry, they got indicted. But then the governor comes out and says, "Oh, I'm definitely going to pardon them." Like, that's opening the doors to basically say your circuit attorney doesn't matter, right? So we got to make sure that we support our local elected officials, but then also make sure that they are exercising their power, but then also hold anybody that's trying to come at them. Like I said, it's about local control. And that also comes to about our businesses, economics. I'm definitely going to let Leon take that that area, because like when we talk about the feds intervening, right? The DOJ was already here in St. Louis when Mike Brown was murdered. They was here because they were investigating St. Louis County juvenile jails and courts already. And they were like, "Oh, well, we already here." I think the difference, so bringing it back to the higher levels, right? I'd have a hard time believing that, the actions of the current administration have shown us that they are not in the business of conversing and working with families to bring them justice. That's what they have displayed, okay? And could Obama have done more? Most likely. So I don't want to ever just ride that train until it gets derailed. But as when we looking at our presidents, our elected officials, our senators, our judges, we have to start asking, what does justice look like? What does success mean? And how will they show up? And that's a question we could be asking. I think that's one of the great questions. Hopefully somebody ask it in the debate tonight. There's been, specifically bringing up Breonna Taylor's case, where a wall got more justice than Breonna Taylor.
All right, DeMarco, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you good. I'm done.
Too quickly. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try to get Leon's take on this next question, and then I have a question from some.
Can I quickly just say something just to clarify that a little bit, just to clarify the steps that you want to see quickly?
Yeah. Fairly quick.
I mean, I believe the federal level, we need to have a standard patterns and practice DOJ investigation for every police department across the country, like an audit that they have to have all the time and display publicly for any problems. And their money funding for these police departments need to be tied to these audits of these pattern and practice and behaviors and what they're doing. And so their money will change behavior of reform. That's one. They get money to militarize their police departments or do certain things because of the federal money that they get for how they fund police departments. The second thing is locally, we need to have an independent investigative unit. One of the problems we have is when you are an officer involved shooting, the police department that has the officer that belongs controls the investigation. So until we have a standard practice of independent investigation practice in the local jurisdiction, then you will continue to have the people basically investigate themselves. Police should not investigate themselves. Also, the laws in the state level and the federal level need to change with the justification of the reasonableness of that police officer at that time. That standard needs to change, because the reasonableness of all of us on the outside, the federal law, and I'm not gonna get too legalese, basically justifies a lot of behavior of those officers that we all know is not reasonable. And that's what needs to change.
All right, I'm gonna get Leon in here, and then I'm gonna get a couple questions from the attendees. So Leon, why is reparations so important for the Black community?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that question, Brother Ross, as I'm sure I'm glad. So I stated earlier, the main reason we keep having all these issues with police brutality, particularly on Black folks, with Black on Black crime, with every disparity you can possibly mention, it goes far beyond just slavery. Okay, that was just, we were in physical shackles then, and we are now in financial shackles and have been ever since 1865 when we were set free. Okay, when we found out we were set free, Juneteenth. So those economic shackles, while some of us, the microcosm of us may break loose of those shackles through independent business ownership, through achieving, higher learning and getting, six-figure jobs and all that sort of stuff. But guess what? If the rest of us aren't financially free, or not, I won't say financially free, if the rest of us are not financially enslaved, as many of us are, then all of us catch the brunt of those same beatings. I'm not going to use the N-word in this forum, but what do you call a Black millionaire? You call him the same thing you call a gang member. Not us, but white supremacists call him the same thing they call gang members, the N-word. All right. So there is no delineation in this world between a poor Black man and a rich Black man. All right. They look at us all the same. The white supremacists do, who control everything. All right. So why are reparations so important? It's the absolute foundation for us. If we do not repair the situation, we are going to revert to even worse than we are right now. It's going to be horrible. This is as good as it's going to get for a long time if we don't get some form of tangibles. And every election cycle, who do the Democrats come and lean on to win the vote? It's us. What do we ask for in return? Well, just make us feel good. Just put some people of color in there. We just want to feel good. And that's all we say every time. We want Black elected officials, and we want this, and then at the end of the day, our neighborhoods still look like hell. They look like hell, not because we don't want to live in a better climate. They look like hell because we can't get the money to fix them up. So yes, we need reparations, and if we don't get it soon, then we're going to perish. It's that simple.
Doc, you wanna respond to that question?
Nah, he hit it on the head, man. I mean, he broke it down as much as you could, man.
I always like to quote Reverend Tracy Blackman. She says we've mistaken access for ownership. When the riots and stuff was happening, people say, "Oh, they turned their own neighborhoods, turned their own communities." And I was like, "What do they own in these neighborhoods? We don't own anything. We don't own the auto zones. We don't own the jobs. We don't own the way to provide for ourselves. There is very little self-sufficiency. And one of the ways to get more resources is through one of the vehicles, right? And I do believe we got to exercise all of them. But one of the vehicles is through politics, and we need our politicians to understand the need for reparations, the need for just providing. Some people want to see universal basic income. And that could be one way that reparations is paid out. That can actually be put a number on it. That, like, we know that it's in the trillions. Our people are owed trillions for developing and building this country. So I agree with Leon. To me, that's always one of the places that we should start the conversation.
Yeah, I actually would like to go to actually have a longer conversation on just that, but I want to get to some questions from the attendees before we part. So I got a question from RC Griffin to the panel. What can we do to curb the violence in our own city and hold our local elected officials accountable for a lack of action regarding the safety and welfare of their constituents?
I guess I'll start with that. I mean, the first thing is we have to address common sense gun laws. We have an F in our state that we are a stand your ground, open carry, permitless state. And so when we talk about the tool that is used in violent crime the most is a gun, we lowered the age to access to a gun. This is the individuals who are pandering of fear of our communities. Well, we do nothing about it. That's what we've created, and that's what we're seeing the effects of it. When I was a legislator in 2012, I stood up the now governor and the now AG. You're creating a perfect storm of hopelessness. You're going to cause more deaths and more problems in the city of St. Louis and around the state. And guess what they did? More guns make us safe. So first is hold them accountable like everybody else. Why are we not having common sense gun laws? This is not for lawful gun owners. This is keeping guns out the wrong people's hand. First, and the second of all, federal intervention is not the solution. Mass incarceration is not the solution. We need equal access to healthcare and equal access to education. And then we have equal access to addressing poverty. That's the #1 driver of crime.
Yeah, I want to keep to our panelists. I want to keep our responses to 30 seconds because we're running on a very short time.
I'm trying to say.
I'm not saying nothing. I'm not saying nothing.
I'll make mine real quick.
Don't start in the circuit attorney now. Come on.
I'll make mine real quick. Community violence and police violence are measurable manifestations of policy violence. It is about policy. So when we are electing people, we have to ask them what are their policies, who are they working with, what grassroots organizations are they working with, where are they getting their ideas from, and how do they plan on implementing them? And we have to also let them know, like, this is what will happen if you do not take care of this or implement these things. And of course, vote them out.
And then I'll answer very quickly too. And I just asked the first one, how do we curb violence? Because I know me growing up, my mom was a crackhead. I didn't give a hell about who my local official was. Let me just be honest. I wanted to make sure my family could provide and put a meal on the table so I could go to school and come home and not have to worry about things. So I think we have to first put jobs back in our communities. You could put these Amazon jobs out in the Earth City, all that, but if a bus ain't getting there to get them to their job and get them home so that when their kids get home from school, you're going to keep seeing violence. Okay, so it deals with poverty too. A lot of it deals with poverty.
It's the root.
Last word, Leon, if you want it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really need to echo what we said, so you can give my 30 seconds to somebody else.
Well, I want to say I thank you all for joining on this pre-discussion. Definitely looking forward to the debate, and hopefully they talk extensively on the Black agenda, and we get some of them tangibles discussed. And I want to let everyone know who's watching this. If you're watching this on Facebook Live. We're going to have a post analysis of the actual vice presidential debate. There will be another link going out if you want to engage with the panelists as far as the actual link to register and engage with the panelists while we have that post discussion. So just keep looking at your email if you already registered, or on our Facebook page, and we will update you on the information. As always, thank you, Ms. Kim Gardner. Thank you, Leon O'Hara, Dr. Shawn Baker, DeMarco Davidson. I believe DeMarco and Shawn are going to be joining us on our post analysis of the discussion, where we're going to really break it down, what we like, what we didn't like, and all that other good stuff. So
I just want to thank the alphas too. Just want to say thank you for allowing me on this panel. I really appreciate it. This is a very important discussion, and you guys are really giving back to the community, and a lot of young brothers and sisters need to see this mentorship that I know Dr. Baker is doing, and many other you on this panel. So I want to thank you and salute you, because we need these examples of strong African-American males to give back to their community. So thank you, and please continue to do the work and outreach.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
you all. Like I said, DeMarco and Dr. Baker, we're going to see you later. All right, guys.
All right,
Thanks,
y'all.
Leon. Appreciate you,
All
brother.
right. Take it easy. Yep. All right, y'all.